Ready?
Ready as we're going to get. My name's Christopher, and I'm Gunner's father.
I'm Christy. I'm Gunner's mom.
Our son has Friedreich's Ataxia. We don't know much about it. We're making this to help enlighten some of our friends, some of our families, and also for anyone else who may have a child in this situation. We've been told that having a 6-year-old being diagnosed with this is extremely rare. And I can tell you it's extremely difficult because of the unknowns. There are a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions, a lot of what ifs. And frankly, we feel like we don't have many answers to that. So we feel as if we document our journey a little bit, it may help some of the other people out there along your journeys with your families. It may bring you some peace that we've so far been unable to capture for our own selves.
I'll start by telling Gunner's story. When he was in, I guess Gunner's story leading to the diagnosis. When he was in pre-K, his teacher brought it to my attention that he had a nervous shake when he went to cut paper. As a mom, you don't really think much about it. You think they're developing hand-eye coordination. You think they're just learning how to cut. They're learning how to write. This is all what this is for. So I just kind of let it slide. This past year, Gunner was in kindergarten, and his teacher brought it to my attention again. So I kind of thought, okay, if 2 teachers are bringing it to my attention, it's a little bit more than hand-eye coordination. Gunner has always had allergy problems, sinus problems. We've had tubes. His adenoids have been removed. He is congested 3 weeks out of the month. It's a constant nose pour. I always thought, okay, he's unbalanced because of all the issues with his sinus and allergy and things like that. Well, after the kindergarten teacher brought it to our attention, we decided that it would be best to contact his pediatrician and see, what she thought about it. So we went to the pediatrician. She, we love her to death. She's a great person, great doctor. She's always put Gunner first. And she did exactly what we asked her to. She got us an appointment with a neurologist. We went to the neurologist in December of 22. And he did some testing on Gunner, just basic watching him walk, watching him run, write, things like that. And
we weren't really given any potential prognosis of what it might be. They wanted us to do a DNA kit because they frankly didn't have an idea whatsoever, per the conversation we had when we were there.
Well, in all honesty, they didn't really lead on that anything could be wrong. It was more like, it's okay, we're just going to check, just, for the fun of it. And I guess about a month later, we were home that day from school, and the nurse called and said that the doctor would like for us to come in to discuss the test results. And your first instinct is to ask, is everything okay? And they're going to tell you, they can't tell you that it's not okay or if it is okay. And the scheduling was just off. We could never get a day that she could get me in where he was there. I mean, we were willing to come at any time, but it was like every day I spit out, there was something that the doctor wasn't able to accommodate. So for some reason I just said, can we come that day? And she's like, absolutely. And this was 10 o'clock in the morning. We threw clothes on. As we were about to walk out the door, she called and said, I'm sorry, the doctor has scheduled that time off for a certain reason. Well, being frustrated, I just said, can he just call? Just have him call me. Because
it's no big deal, just tell us over the phone.
And it was a Friday. I'm not spending the weekend wondering what could happen on Monday. And so the doctor calls, and I remember it vividly. We're in Sam's, and he calls, and he tells me my son has muscular dystrophy. And it was a gut punch. I asked him if it was severe. His answer was, there is no severe. Well, I guess in a mother's eyes, at this point, Gunner was not severe, and to where a wheelchair is severe to me. And then I said, are we looking at a wheelchair? And he just said, I can't really tell you yes or no on that, and I get it. And after that, we came home and we had emotions and we cried and we would watch our son run around the yard and believe that there's no way that our child has this. There's just no way that this is what's going to consume him.
To get news like that over a phone call when you're walking through a department store, there's no way to capably be able to handle that correctly. There was no way to process it where we were in a public place. I think the only thing that we did was we got out of there as quick as we could, just so we could process. Like she said, the emotional difficulties that came with that conversation are just I don't even care to recall them, and I hope no one else has to ever experience them.
Well, I immediately picked up the phone and I called Texas. I guess we can say we called Texas Children's, and of course, I had already explained to her, I've seen a neurologist, I have test results, please don't make me start at the bottom. We can't do that again. We want to go straight to the source of where we need to be. And I will tell you, that lady was an angel sent. She did exactly what I needed her to do. She got on the phone, she made calls, she got the referrals for us all set up in place. I sent her over the test results. And I guess it was about a week later, she called back and she asked us to come in to see their neurologist. And so we get there and, well, I guess we need to back up. I'm sorry. When I took him to go see the pediatrician to kind of discuss the diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, we get it. People are human. People make mistakes. The phone call was not the right way to give us a diagnosis like this. And with a diagnosis like this...
And the other thing that really upset us too is the doctor, the way he presented it was, as we thought.
Yes. His exact words were, as we thought, it's muscular dystrophy. Well,
and that was completely out of the clear blue for us. We were given no precursor warning. The doctor, when we were in the office, never mentioned anything along those lines. And so that was one of the reasons it made it so emotionally difficult. Had we had some sort of a warning that, hey, we're looking, it could be something like this, along the lines of it, I'm sure it would have still been very difficult to accept. But
we would have had a bumper.
Yeah, we would have had that time to process a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was just so out of the clear blue, we couldn't believe that those were the results. Because obviously, being parents, being this day and age we live in, the very first thing you do is run to your phone and start looking up internet things on this prognosis. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't lining up for what we saw. He was not supposed to be highly intelligent if he had that. He is extremely highly intelligent. He just, you look down the list and the symptoms did not add up to what our son is. And so we needed some further guidance, and suffering through it all weekend. I mean, our world collapsed for an entire weekend. And she jumped on the phone. Christy jumped on the phone immediately and got a doctor's appointment that Monday.
We went in to talk to our pediatrician, and I really wanted some kind of guidance. I didn't know, where do we start? Because, as parents, you fight. You fight for your children, and you do what you've got to do to get them the help they need. And she came in, and again, she's our favorite. We love her to death. And she just, she's just said, for one, I'm going to tell you, I would have never saw this coming. And she sat down and she read the results, and she read the blood test, and she read the results, and she read the blood test.
And actually, not just her, but another doctor there that knew us as well. So we had two doctors that actually knew us, knew our family personally, that read over the results numerous times and said, they don't see it.
All they could see is that Gunnar was a carrier of muscular dystrophy, which means he has the gene, and that if he ever had decided to have children, and if it was his wife and his choice, they could be tested. If the mother had the gene could mutate. We were super relieved. But at the same time, we still wanted that extra, everything is okay.
Yeah,
type.
Again, as a parent, once you're told something's wrong with your child, you don't just leave it wide open, everything's going to be okay moving forward. You need that the finality to it. What is this? How do we overcome this? What do we need to do for our kid to make our kid okay? And so that's when we went to Texas Children's, looking for more answers, looking for more definitive answers at that to what we needed to do moving forward, what our son actually had. Again, we were still thinking it was probably like a neurological tic or something like that was going to need some physical therapy, something minor, but nothing major. And even going to Texas Children's the first time, I got a very warm feeling. The hospital is phenomenal. Please do not get us wrong. This is nothing against Texas Children's. They clearly have done nothing wrong, and this was the prognosis that we got was in no way their fault.
We just, with Gunner's journey, we want to be raw. We want to be real. We want to, because we are finding ourselves in a position that Gunner is one of the youngest known diagnosed in America with this disease. And where he is the researcher and he will go do to the links of what he's got to do to look, I'm afraid to go down those rabbit holes. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. I don't want to face it until it hits me in the face, and that's all I can do is face it.
And that's actually one of the things that makes this the most difficult for us, because I don't know what to share with her, and she doesn't know how to ask me about certain things. It's never good to hide things in a relationship, and we're not intentionally hiding something from one another.
We bottle our emotions so we don't hurt the other. If the other's having a good day, you don't want to take away from their good day, or what
I would
may
say
not
shelter,
be what may not be on their mind. But let's back to the story. We took Gunner to the neurologist at Texas Children's, and he came in and he watched kind of like the same test that the other neurologist did, and he just looked at us and he said, I just don't believe it's muscular dystrophy. He said, I believe it's a form of ataxia. Well, I'd never heard the word before. I didn't know what it meant.
They didn't make it sound like it was a major deal at the time, and it was kind of like, okay, cool, ataxia.
It was a sigh of relief. I mean, you leave thinking, okay, this is going to be okay. It's going to be perfectly fine. He's just a little wobbly, and it's going to be his life, and he gets it from his mom. So he requested that we do another DNA test that focuses more on the brain and a certain area of the brain where the Friedreich's ataxia attacks back. It, from my understanding, is the back base of the brain.
I don't remember the exact portion of the brain that attacks.
And like I said, we're learning. We're going through the motions as we can.
There's limited information on this because it's a rare disease, not just for children, but across the board. There's not a lot of cases known. I think it's estimated between 20 and 50,000 people are all that are known to have it total in the world.
Well, so we did the DNA test, and it was maybe 3 weeks later. They always set you up. They always tell you it's going to be a couple of months, Yeah. So you're breathing, but you're not breathing through it all. And the phone rang, and again, we were home. I don't know why we were home. I don't know if it was the evening time or it was all such a blur, I think. But he called and he told us that Gunner had Friedreich's ataxia. And
both of us were kind of like, okay, what the hell
is
that?
This? Like what? Okay, and he wanted us to come in. Well, if they want you to come in, it's probably not more on the lighter side.
Especially when they want you to come in right away.
He got us in that Monday. It was a Thursday or Friday. We came in that next business day. And they're amazing. Every question we had, it wasn't necessarily they had answers to, but they were willing to find out. I keep skipping all over the place because, like I said, we're doing this raw. We're not sugarcoating. We're not.
We literally walked in from the other room and said, "Let's do it now, or else we're not going to be able to do this." We're trying to make this kind of a ongoing series to help anybody. Again, whether it be our friends, someone in our family, heck, looking back on it, it might even help you or I, or we have a daughter
Gunner,
that's involved, Gunner, whoever. Anyone that we can help with these videos is the purpose of it.
Well, and back to the first initial neurologist appointment, when he had mentioned it was a form of ataxia, he told us that there is a specialist, an ataxia specialist.
There's 2 of them in the southeast United States.
And
both of them worked at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston.
One was there today, and he was there that day, and he was able to meet with us. And until we talk to him about us videoing this, I don't want to really use his name or throw him out until we get him okay and on board or not, whatever. But the minute he walked in, you could tell that Gunnar was his top priority. He studied Gunnar. He never took his eyes off of Gunnar. He was
enamored with Gunnar. Gunnar is the best way to put it. I mean, you see, when, like she said, when he walked in, it was like a kid with a new video game, but in a kind of way is what it reminded me of. He's, whoa, what do we have here? He lit up, and he was really fascinated by Gunnar and his entire story. He wanted to know more about him. He wanted to be able to research with Gunnar and see. You could see it wasn't just another case. Some doctors, and look, there's nothing against anybody out there in any field. I understand that at certain points in your career, you just go cold because you've experienced it too many times repeatedly. I get it. With this doctor, that wasn't the case.
With any of them there.
No, with any of them.
Any of them.
But I mean, him especially, when he walked in, he lit up the room. You could feel he was so happy to be there with us, which was almost a bizarre feeling in today's modern world, having somebody to be so happy to be in a room with you when something so traumatic is going on.
Well, and both of us, having strong faith in the Lord, I think God knew at that time we needed him, and we needed him to be there right then to jump on. When we went back after the diagnosis, it was tough to hear. I still don't 100% understand exactly. I know it will affect his mobility. It will possibly eventually take away his mobility. It will eat at his organs.
It affects every part of who he is. That's what this disease is. It typically does not come on until the late 20s, early 30s. We're waiting to hear results back from a cardiologist. Depending on what the cardiologist says, could indicate how much of a life he's going to have. We don't know at this point. We've been told, and from what I've read, problems with the heart can lead to a much shorter life for people with ataxia. But if they have a normal heart, if they don't have any of the major problems, there's been cases living to their 60s and 70s, and I'm sure some even longer. The obvious first question that everybody has is, what can we do? Right now, there's only one medicine out there that's approved for ataxia, for Friedreich's ataxia, and it's only been approved for about a year, I believe, if that. But it's only approved for 18 and up right now.
16.
16 and up?
16 and up.
16 and up.
Gunnar has a long list of doctor's appointments. We had an appointment scheduled for a cardiologist, and the day before the appointment, they called and said that because we have already done the EKG and the echo, that is not where we need to be. That we need to be at cardiomyopathy. That appointment is in October, I believe.
Which kind of leaves you out in the wild just wondering what's going on. It would have been nice to have a little bit of a follow-up just to say, hey, here's the path we're on, here's what we need to be looking at. Everything over here looks good, or hey, everything over here looks really bad, we need to pay attention to this.
Well, and my chart can be a curse and it can be a blessing.
It's the internet.
Yeah.
It's the day and age of the internet. The second you get 2 words out of a doctor, you got to go run and search them out and go, oh, this is what he meant. No, that's not at all what he meant, but
right.
As concerned parents, that's what you're going to do.
Gunnar doesn't know.
Gunnar knows he has something wrong with him, but he
doesn't-
doesn't know exactly what it is at this point. The best way that anyone has described what's going on with Gunnar is Gunnar himself. He told his classmates in kindergarten that he had a virus of the brain. And that's a really remarkable thing for a 6-year-old to be able to tell some other kids. And actually and honestly, he told the doctor that. And the doctor thought that was pretty incredible. He said he never heard it quite put that way before, but it was a very accurate, very understandable description of what was going on.
The best thing you can do for us, if you're the praying kind, just pray for him. I believe that this is Gunnar's testimony, and he either is the cure or he's going to find the cure. It's hard. It's hard watching your child and all the dreams that you had for them. It's hard watching them and not knowing what people will say about him. It's hard thinking of all the things that he can encounter in life. I'm sure it is with all parents. I mean, it's just...
It's different with this child because we were basically told the way that Friedreich's ataxia works is he's going to slowly diminish before our eyes. He's going to slowly lose abilities. And to be told that as a parent, to have a child that's going to slowly be taken away from you in front of your own eyes, I can't tell you the amount of pain that puts both of us in. We stay strong as we can, not just for him, but for our daughter as well, for us,
for ourselves.
But it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of times where I think specifically when we're not around each other that we let some of those guards down and let some of that pain out. Again, trying to shelter one another from...
It's all about, you don't want the other one to feed onto your day that you're having or your fear that you're having, and it's not so much that we keep the fear from each other. It's just, it's one of those things where if you watch him and he stumbles, it's no longer, oh, he's clumsy. It's, oh gosh, is it worse? Is it getting worse? Is it taking over him? Is it...
And we've been told that we may not be able to see the changes because we're with him every day. It's that slow moving. But then again, he's also 6 years old, and it's a completely different case than what anyone else has dealt with to speak of. And there are cases where it moves more progressively fast. There's cases where it moves more progressively slow. There's cases where it's less severe and more severe. And, you're sitting here wondering, is this the type of wound that's going to have to be taken to the hospital and stitched up? Or is this the type of wound we go to the closet right there and get a Band-Aid and fix it? And there's no one telling you either way. There's no, hey, we can do this test and possibly give you some more answers. We haven't gotten any of that. And that's not a knock on anybody. I don't know that there is a test that you can run to determine that. There's not that much information out there on this. And again, that's one of the reasons we're wanting to do this, is because if our journey can help someone else, if it's a year from now, if it's 10 years from now, whatever, if it's a month from now, it doesn't matter. If we can help somebody else in a similar situation, or somebody else that's suffering through some of the stuff that we're going through,
and we can reach out, lean on, because as parents, I think a couple of weeks ago I came to Chris and I told him, I said, as bad as this sounds, like I picture it as a diagnosis that can be treated. And why aren't we fighting? Why aren't we doing things to make our son better? I feel like I'm failing my child because I'm not fighting. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to make this better. I don't know what to do. I can't take it away. I can't take it from him. And that's the raw of it. There is nothing. There is nothing to do but sit and wait and pray and hope. And
I have never felt more weak and defenseless in my entire life than I have getting this prognosis for him. And like you say, just being told to sit back and wait and see what happens.
Just sit and watch.
That's one of the most horrifying things that a parent can be told. And I understand it is what it is. There's nothing else that they can really tell us, unfortunately.
No.
But it doesn't make it easier. It's just, we want to make it clear that we're not placing blame on the medical field.
No.
That's, we're not placing blame on anyone.
Mm-mm.
It's just...
It's our emotions. It's the feeling. It's the roller coaster of it all, and you could be having a bad day and Gunnar will come out with one of his witty smart aleck comments. And
now, I will be honest with you. At some point in time, I'm sure Gunnar will be involved with these videos. Be warned, our son is a huge smartass. He is highly intelligent, and I love him to death, but he is a huge smartass. He really is. For his age, he's highly intelligent.
He knows how to get what he wants, huh?
He convinced us to get him his own cell phone at 6 years old. And how did he do that, you may ask? We traded in our cell phones to get a somewhat newer model. And in the time frame of trading them in, mailing them in, whatever we did with them, he used his mother's old cell phone for a week or two on Wi-Fi. No big deal, right? Until your son gets back over from his babysitters to his grandma's house, gets Wi-Fi and picks up the phone and texts you and calls you and says, I just wanted to let you know how much I love you and miss you. And not just once, every day. How do you argue with a 6-year-old that calls you and tells you, I love you, I miss you, I'll never stop loving you? The boy is, not only is he highly intelligent, he's highly caring. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's kind of one of those funny things. I watch different shows and think about my life growing up, and I know he's going to get picked on as he gets older. I know he will. That doesn't bother me. That's part of life. That's part of growing up. I'm sorry for anybody out there that doesn't believe that, but it's the truth. You know, it is. That doesn't bother me. His smart-ass mouth getting him into a situation where he's going to get beat up is what bothers me.
But we figured, you know, documenting this to, for one, keep our friends and family in the loop, and
we haven't shared with anybody really some of our deepest feelings about this. We've told some people what's going on, but the amount of emotional drain that this puts on us, we haven't talked about. It's something that stresses us to our limits every day, every waking hour. And that's not even fair, probably because we stress about it even trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And I mean that both literally and figuratively, because our son still sleeps with us. And through the slaps and the punches and the kicks that we get, which is also some part of what's going on with him, because he gets restless leg and stuff like that. I don't know about the flailing arm syndrome, but yes, I get slapped in the middle of the night sometimes. And yes, I wake up pissed off. But it's just, you know, you don't know what to expect. No one's got the book that says, hey, follow these steps, and, you know, you can't change the course, but here's at least the course that you're on, the path that you're on. Nobody can give us that other than you're headed towards a car wreck. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, come on, give me some guideline. Am I going down the freeway? Am I going down a back road? Am I...
Well, the steering wheel one way?
Yeah, something. Do I at least know the airbag's going to deploy? Mm-hmm. Something. But it's really, how do you go to friends and family and explain what we're going through when you can't explain it to each other?
You can't. There's no right word for it. You know, I don't know. You know, I think this past month I've been in make the appointments mode, do this, we've got to get this scheduled, we've got to get this doing, you know, got to get this going, got to get all this turned in, and but when you sit down and you stop and you just think, it's scary as hell, you know, it's, I mean, you watch your son walk out the door and you don't know how long it's going to be until he can't do that anymore, you know, or
just coming down the stairs.
Or running around in the yard, you know, you don't know how long it's going to be till you've got to go pick him up and put him in swing again.
Or watching him play with the dog, not knowing how long he'll be able to do that. You know, it's the smallest things in the world. Thinking, you know, for a 6-year-old, you know, you want to see him riding a bike, you want to see him running around the yard, playing ball. We don't know that we're able to put our son in sports because we don't know what his shape of his heart is. You know, it's just so many unanswered things.
You know, and we want everybody to be a part of his journey and show you what a warrior he is, what a fighter he is, and I believe there's more to this than what we're being presented with. I believe that there's a reason why we found this so young. I believe that you know. And I think this is where Chris and I also, we have differences, is not differences, we're on two different emotional roller coasters. It's, you know, I'm trying to put all my faith in God because, in all honesty, I'm scared if I don't, the devil's gonna win.
I can't say that I'm doing the same. I've been very angry with God at times. Namely because why would he do this to a child? And I understand there's lots of bad things in this world that happen to lots of great kids. But something long and drawn out to such an innocent child is just, whether it be my son or someone else's kid, it shouldn't happen. And, you know, it's, I don't know that Gunnar is going to change this disease. I know Christy believes that he's going to be the cure. I don't know that he will definitively be the cure, but I do believe that he will help impact this for the positive. And on that, I also think it's really important that we mention that we're looking into clinical trials and stuff like that for Gunnar, on behalf of not just Gunnar, but future generations, future kids. If there's something logical that we can do to help treat this, it's not going to negatively impact him. You know, obviously it's clinical trial. You don't know for sure. Nothing is definitive with that. But if it's, hey, you've got a 5% chance of improving him and a 95% chance of doing harm to him, hell no, we're not doing that. But
we're not being stupid about it. We're, you know, but we are looking, we are fighting, we are, you know, we're doing everything we possibly can to
and again,
get him taken care of.
Yeah, if there's a clinical trial he goes to and sure enough they find it improves him by 20%, then every other kid out there in his situation may stand to benefit from that. And, you know,
well, and two, we're not using our son as a guinea pig either. You know, we're, first and foremost, it's to get Gunnar better. But at the same time, if it helps another child or another family who is going through this, so be it. And I don't know how frequent we'll do these. I don't know. You know, our plan is to eventually introduce everyone that doesn't know Gunnar personally, what his life looks like and what the wobbly gait is. And
speaking of wobbly gait, one of the cutest things about Gunnar is when we were at Texas Children's, you know, being a 6-year-old, and the doctor that I talked about seemed like he got his new video game. He asked Gunnar what his favorite video game is, and it's still true to this day, which is about, 5-6 months later now. Doctor looked at him and he said, so, what's your favorite video game? Without missing a beat, Gunnar turns to him, looks at him and says, wobbly life.
The way I have kind of perceived Friedreich's ataxia is it kind of gives off like a drunk person approach. When you see him walking, he'll stumble to one side. He doesn't really fall. He does a lot of tripping. He does a lot of walking into walls, or
it makes you think that he's not paying attention where he's going a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like, hey, watch where you're walking, buddy. Hey, you know, pay attention. Especially being a kid with the cell phone and everything else. It's a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too. I've yelled at him, but hey, pay attention. Watch what you're doing. And it's me thinking, hey, if you're paying attention and watching what you're doing, maybe you won't stumble. Maybe you won't this. Maybe it'll help you in the future. Maybe, but the truth is we just don't know.
Well, and part of the ataxia is the brain is telling the muscle to move a certain way, but the muscle is not reacting to that wave, I guess is what you call it. Or so you'll notice like Gunnar might drag his leg, not really drag it, just kind of like flops. I don't know how to explain it.
Some of his actions and some of the ways he moves, you don't know if they're intentional or not, uncontrolled. Or
if you watch him run, you would think we never let our child run a day in his life, you know.
Back of your head, you're screaming, "Run, Forrest, run!"
It's, but and please don't, you know, like we have to find laughter in this. We have to get us through the days. We have to laugh about some of it, and even Gunnar will tell you, it's, you know. because I'm wobbly, because, you know, and I think maybe he uses that a little too much as an excuse. Or
We love him unconditionally. I told him the other day, I said, and this is the truth about how I feel about both of my children. Both of my kids were gifts from God. Every day that I have with them is a present. They don't ever have to give me anything for the rest of the time that I'm alive or on this planet, because they are my gifts. Every day that I have with them, I cherish. There's nothing in this world that means more to me than them. And I love you, and you know that.
Yeah. I mean, we're all fighting this as a family, and I mean, our parents, our sisters, our brothers, our best friends. You know, like we have a great support system. But I think it's too with them. You don't want to ruin their days because everybody has their own thing. You know, and
this is such a difficult thing to deal with. We are trying to internalize it and not burden anyone else with it, I think is the best way.
Well, and I think too, like I was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago, and she told me, you know, I know my son's diagnosis is nothing like Gunner's, and my heart kind of broke a little bit because I don't ever want someone to feel like their child is less than my child, is I guess how you would word it. And I just told her, I said, you know, regardless, both of what they have has been life altering. It changes everything. You know, from waiting to get into our house to we don't know if we can live here in a couple of years, you know, because it's a 2-story house and he might not be able to get up and down the stairs, or
I mean, just the stairs that lead up to the house. There's 3 or 4 stairs that lead up to the house, and that might be too much. You know, we drove a pickup truck. Is that going to be too tall for him? You know, it's just the doorways. If he's having to use a wheelchair, the doorway's wide enough. I mean, there's a billion different things that you don't have to think about, but as a caring parent, you do think about. You already start questioning. You already start worrying about. You know, it's your deepest fears are exaggerated because of the condition that you're placed upon. And to Christy's point, whatever your kid is suffering from, I'm sorry for whatever they're suffering from. Even if it's just a scratched elbow, scraped up knee from a bike ride, whatever, I'm sorry. My kid's not any worse off than your kid. But this is our story of what we're dealing with. And
well, and two, we want to be open with Gunner's diagnosis, and we have been pretty private about it up until now. But I think it was more so because we didn't know. We still don't know, but at this point we're just tired of not knowing, and you know.
That's the hard thing, is when you go to tell people about what's going on, here's what he has. Well, what does that mean? We don't know. What are you going to do for it? Well, we don't know. When does it start really happening? We don't know. What are the warning signs? We don't know. I mean, it's, you know, it's a cruel joke in a lot of ways. So I think that's one of the reasons we've been a lot more private with it, is because you don't have any answers. You don't. And so I think maybe privately, even though we haven't really discussed it, I think that's one of the things about this video that we're hoping in some ways is that by expressing our feelings and some of the things that we've learned and some of the things we're witnessing on this, that maybe some of our friends and family can get those answers that we otherwise can't provide.
Well, and just watching, you know, our plan is to video some of Gunner and, you know, eventually getting him into this. And
he's already been in trouble for YouTubing, by the way.
In November, we are going to meet a man who has FA also, and he is doing a race. And I reached out to him just because more so of, I needed to know what it is. I need to know what it looks like. I need to know, you know, from someone who has it, not something that Google tells me is what it is, or, and so he, you know, reaching out to him, he's been great, and just, he invited us to come meet with him, and I think it's time we start introducing not only ourselves, but Gunner to the FA world, and, you know, understanding that, you know, as a parent with no answers, you don't know really how to approach this with your child. And my theory is, you know, if we have him in that lifestyle, maybe it won't be such a big shock. You know, maybe it'll be a little bit easier to transition into, or...
I think it's one of those things, as a parent, you do everything you can to help prepare your child for the life they're going to face.
Mm-hmm.
But in the situation we're in, we don't know what that is. We don't know how long that is. We don't know what type of life that is. We don't know almost anything. And so it's, you know, I joked earlier about getting mad at him for different things and getting upset with him. He's a 6-year-old kid. You're going to get upset at times. But then you immediately turn back around and go, think of what you're going to miss out on if you're upset with them. And so you get upset with yourself, but then you have to remind yourself that it's okay to be upset with them.
He's still a kid. Yeah, he's still going to have to face punishments. And, but, you know, from here on out, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate. You know, there might be things where we look at you and say, we don't know, and we honestly just don't know. You know,
we're going to post this to YouTube. We may post it to Facebook as well. I don't know. But honestly, I would prefer, if you don't mind, even if your friends or family, if you have questions, put them on YouTube. And the reason I'm asking that is because if there's something, a good question out there, everybody's going to have questions, okay? There is no bad question. But some of your questions and some of our answers could help other people, could help other of our friends, could help other of our family. Like she said, could help Gunnar in the future, could help a complete stranger going through this situation. So why take away from any of those people?
Well, and that chance too, with us putting it out there might be someone that has an answer for Gunnar, or, you know,
Absolutely.
It's just something we felt compelled to do. And, you know, this is Gunnar's story, but right now we're telling it because he doesn't know a lot about it. The way we explain it to him is he's wobbly, you know, and that's where we're at right now. And I think we both agreed that as the things come on, we'll approach it from there. And when it's time, we'll tell him. But right now, he's a 6-year-old little boy that loves his video games. And
I think right now the videos are more for you and I and for our family directly.
mm-hmm.
And then as Gunnar gets older, he can understand that we've been here the whole time, worried about him the whole time. And we've been fighting for him. And that's something really important for anyone to know, is that their parents really did love them and they really did fight for them. Especially in the case of any child that has an illness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is to know that your parents really do love you and they're never going to give up on you. So, if anybody sees us from time to time and we're just down, or we're stressed out, we're being quiet, or being distant, it's not that we mean to be. It's just overwhelming.
It's our life. It's our life right now.
It's very difficult, and we don't want to burden any more people than we have to with what's going on, because it is a burden. It is a very challenging, deeply emotional burden. And I don't mean that in a negative way against Gunnar, but personally, it's a lot for anyone to deal with. And we don't want to put that burden on anyone that we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
again, we don't know how regular we'll do these, or, you know, I mean, it was kind of a great little therapy session to get those tears out, but
I'm doing away with fuzzy Cal.
You do away with Cal, you'll have a real one in here pretty soon. But
But
again, you know, love our boy, hug on him. He's, you know,
he is a gift from God.
And he's not fragile. You're not going to break him. You're not going to, you know, if he's doing
He'll
something
tell you
wrong.
exactly the way he feels. Have no
if
doubt
he's
about
doing
that.
something wrong, by all means, you get a hold of him and tear him up. And, you know, we don't treat him differently. We don't expect anyone else to treat him differently.
If he acts up, he gets in trouble.
He gets in trouble. So, but again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I think we're at the point where we're ready to tell our story and Gunnar's story, and
if these start gaining more and more traction, I don't expect these to get thousands upon thousands of
I
likes.
do
or
it for my
anything like
family
that.
and my friends. And
But if there are other people around the world that are interested in this, we can set up an email or something like that to where they can contact us as well.
or if you know someone that's in our shoes and that
Yeah,
we can.
we could contact and just talk about it. By all means, this is just we're wide open to suggestions.
Exactly.
So,
All right. Well, I guess you end it with, see ya.
yeah. Until next time. Ataxia later.
Ataxia later.